Good evening, dear Chabura. Going through Kol Torah Kol live as we go through the entire Torah Shabbat with the Rambam in our lead one Perek a day. And we are about to begin Perek Beis of Hilchas Tzitzis. Now, the Rambam described to us that Be'etzem mitzvah Tzitzis, it's one biblical command, but it is comprised of two separate mitzvahs. What he considers the Lavan Shabai, the white, which are the strings. The Rambam described already how it comes out off the beged, how it's sewn to the beged, where it's situated, and how to split it into 3/3, right? The first third is where it has the chulyos, the wraparounds, and then the last 2/3 hanging downward are free. And then there's the Techeiles. That's the one that goes around all the white ones. And these are two mitzvahs. The Lavan Shabai and the Techeiles Shabai are two separate. They're not ma'akiv one another, and the Torah says v'hoyu lochem letzitzis. Torah commanded us about the white, commanded us about the blue, and they're not ma'akiv one another. However, together they comprise one mitzvah. Good. Yesterday we focused on the lavan, how it's spun together, the type of lishma it needs, and now we're going to focus on the Techeiles, the blue. Zok the Rambam. Techeiles amor b'Torah, the Techeiles, this blue color that is referred to in Torah b'chol makom, hiatzemer hatzavua. This is wool that is dyed kapasel shabakchol. Chol is what the woman would use for makeup for their eye. It was a blue color, and there was pasuk. There was a certain part that was mixed with white to like give it some sort of a lighter shade. That's the type of color this wool should be dyed into. How does he describe the color? That's the way the scar looks. That's the way the color of the sky is when the sun is smack in the middle of the sky and you're looking at the side. So you see a lit up sky and a clear sky, and the sun is at that point in the day. Now, the Techeiles, which refer when we discuss tzitzis, it has to be done professionally in a way it will maintain its color and not change over time. It's a very professional dye. If it wasn't done with this professionalism or this in this specific way that the craftsman knew how to do, it's invalid. Even if right now, currently it looks that color of the sky, great going, but being that it won't maintain the color, it's possible. Keep going. For example, he says if you got that color with istis, which is it's made out of herbs, not from this dam chilaz and the Rambam that the Torah is referring to. It's with a very dark black. Or like you had the color blue, but you added different things to darken it, or is a puzzle, tzitzis, it is invalid to fulfill the mitzvah of Techeiles with tzitzis. Now, Rachel bas Eis, what happens if you have a sheep, but one of its parents is a goat? So even though it has wool, halachically it's not considered wool. And Samra Apostle Tzitzis, this will not be considered Semer in regard to Tzitzis. Halacha Beit. How practically do we dye it? How do you dye it? You take this wool, first of all, you put it through a process which will take away all the color it had initially. So this seed will whiten it. Once it whitened it, it took out all the yellow color or whatever the fats, the greasiness it has from the hair of the wool of the sheep. They wash it until it's completely clean. Where they heat it up, they boil it in Allah. It's a type of salt, put it into certain soaps. Okay, it's about and as those that dye materials do. This is all that it should be able to afterwards accept the color properly. Afterwards, you bring the dam chilazin, and the Rambam describes it. It's a fish that it looks the color of blue. And the blood it has inside, or it's a bag. It's like dark, like ink. It's found in Yam HaMelech, whether he means Yam HaMelech that we know of, or any salty waters like in the ocean. And this is the way that Tzabayim, those that died, do it. They would heat it up, and by they put the tzemer, they put the wool into this dye until it takes on that color, the color of the sky. This is the Techeiles referred to in Parshas Vayomer as tzitzis. Now, it's just important to note, everyone knows the Radziner Rebbe that claimed that it's a certain snail-like. He calls it a dag. Halacha Gimel. Techeiles shel tzitzis tzricha tzviya l'shma. It has to be dyed with the intent of tzitzis. Of Techeiles of tzitzis, sorry. V'im tzva shaloi l'shma, if you dyed it without that intent, you're just using a beautiful color, psul, it's invalid. V'ayirish yesh bar tzeva. So what happens if you have a pot that you are cooking the dye of Techeiles inside? Im tzava b'ma'at tzemel l'botkoi, if you dipped a little bit of wool inside of it, so you use that dye, even if your intent is just to test the color, but the fact is, it seems like that whole dye was prepared for this test, and it's not. That's not the tzitzis itself, and therefore it validates. In the entire pot gets pfeifen. So what do? Allocated yas. You can't put this testing wool that you're putting into the initial pot, because then you're going to invalidate it. It's going to look like all that was for this test wool. You pour out of this dye a little bit in a smaller pot or vessel. In it, you will put this wool that you're testing, and you should burn it afterwards. So let's say the test went well and it looks the right color. Burn it so nobody uses it by mistake as Techeiles, because it was not done l'shma, l'shem the mitzvah. It was dyed for testing purposes. And pour out the remainder of the dye, so that doesn't need to get used. Once you used it, it passed it, as we said. And the mitzvah of Techeiles will be done with the rest of the dye that has not been blemished by the usage and invalidated. Halacha Dalet. You have to take it from a person that is, first of all, professional, as we said, and if you didn't take it from a mumche, we're choishesh that it was done shaloi l'shma. Now, what happens? What happens if you took a taka from a mumche and you found out afterwards that 1 second he added some other ingredients that darken it and contribute to the color that don't maintain the color? Psula, retroactively, you can't use this as Techeiles. Now, Kate said, now we're going to say, how do you check the Techeiles to see if it will withstand the test of time and that it was done professionally in a way that it won't wither, won't fade? So he has two tests. The first test is loikhin teven. You take a straw together with, interestingly enough, virir shel shablu, which is the slime and the mucus of a snail, umei raglayim, and urine that sat and became acidic. What's it called? Fermented for 40 days. The shoyrin atchilas bekulam meis leis together. I think they're mixed together, or maybe in each one separately, but it has to sit 24 hours. Im amda be'ena, if it maintained its color of loikasa, it didn't fade, become lighter, then it's kosher. Now, im kasa, if it did become lighter, and this was a huge deal to find this Techeiles, so you want to make sure that. So if it became lighter, you weren't just going to give up. There's a second test to tell you that it's taka not good. They would take dough from barley, that they would make it sour. Lemurius, I think, is for chickens to eat. They would use it, but could be it's also like starter dough. You take this Techeiles that has now become lighter due to that whole concoction that we started with the saliva of the snail and the fermented urine and whatever, and this straw. You take that piece that became lighter, you put it into this dough, and then you bake this dough. And after it baked, take out the Techeiles and check. If it became even lighter than it went lower earlier, then psul, it's possible. It's invalid. Im hoisif eina, however, strengthened itself and went back, it became darker than it was before it was baked, then this will indicate that it is kosher. Allah above. Now, what happens if you have a courtyard? Let's refer to it as a store. That it's known, they sell Techeiles, Grocery or Shemayim buy from them, it's accepted. You're allowed to buy without double guessing. It will maintain its chazaka until someone's going to suspect. Now, that means someone all of a sudden at some point, whether the color went and faded, and they did the test or whatever reason, people start questioning it. Then you could, then you have to start asking. Now, hamafki Techeiles etzakusi. Someone took Techeiles and gave it for safekeeping by a regular goy. Harezu psula. It's invalid from thereafter. Shemay chlifa. We're afraid Shemay that will switch it. Why? Because in those day and age, it was like a symbol of royalty. A person that was able to have many colors from exotic plants or from animals. They got dye from far away. In the ancient days, you knew this. They had like gansana concoctions, what would produce different colors and from different herbs from very far away. So a guy, you gave him blue. This was like a special color blue from a dag chalazim. Nashi says it comes up once in 70 years. So he switched it. However, well, if it was in a kli, chasam b'shnei chasam was covered with two stamps or two signet seals, then and they sealed each other. That means it was in one bag that was sealed shut and you broke it, you would know that it was open, and then another bag on top of with a type of knot that you would know that it was open. So it's one seal on top of the other, then it's kosher. However, if it's just one, we're still suspect that it could be imitated. Halacha zayin. What happens if a person's going in the marketplace and he finds Techeiles, lo and behold, even if he found it near a whole bunch of strings that were cut off, but he found a string of Techeiles, not necessarily is it from tzitzis. Could be this is a different color. There's no way to secure your pick over here. However, shizurin, if they're woven together, then kshera, it is kosher. Because then that's the way it was the tfiyasena. That's how they prepared. Now, this is all if you found strings together, woven together. If you took an entire talis cotton, which was obviously for a mitzvah, if you took it from a yid, you could rely on it. I don't even know where the Techeiles came from. That was all. When do you need v'cheskas kashos if you're just buying the Techeiles, that string or that dye, etc.? But here you're buying a whole talis cotton. You don't have to suspect that it was done not proper. However, minakusi, if you're taking it from a guy, then it depends. Hatagar, if he's a businessman and he's buying and selling, he's a middleman, he's a supplier, then ksheira it's kosher. He doesn't want to ruin his name and whatever, and he has access. If it's a regular person coming to you the beged, maybe he's trying something at home, don't buy it. Puzzle, it is invalid. Now, before when we said that hamafkid Techeiles etzakusi, when that's obviously if he wasn't mafkid, here's a talis. There was just a wool that was dyed that way. Halacha ches. Talis shikula duma or yeruka mishatzvay. And we're going back to discuss the Lavan Shabbai. And the Rambam started off saying in last Perek that Lavan, when we say the white part of the tzitzis, is not necessarily is it white. The pshat is that there's no mandatory color menatayra. That's why he calls it white, because it's blank, so to speak. So he says, Tal shikula aduma. What happens if the entire beged is red, or yeruka is green, and mishatzvay and many other color? The white strands, which are the ones that the Techeiles will go around and wrap around and tie them and etc. That white is done the same color as the beged. So im yeruka yerukin. If it was white, if it was a green, so you make the strings green. Im aduma adumin. If the entire talis was blue, then oisa love and shalom mishaitzo, and at that point the Techeiles has to stand out that this is the Techeiles kosher, and therefore the regular strings that the Techeiles will be going around should be from any other color. Chutz min hashacher, aside from black. black can look like blue, and that's too close to that color. And then over all these strings, you're going to wrap around the Techeiles string, as you would do in a case of other tzitzis that were not dyed. Now, halacha test. The Rambam finishes with inspiration. You should know that kasha oynish misha ein maniach lavan. The punishment is greater for a person that didn't ensure that he has the white strings. It's even greater from the person that didn't put Techeiles. Why so? The Techeiles is much more unique. So technically, the white is much more accessible. And if you didn't go the extra mile to get the white, even if you're a big tzaddik and you found this one was unique, you did it for your own purposes, what you like, but not. So with Mela, it's a bigger einish. It's accessible to everybody. But it's not available at every given time, every given place. Because it requires all this whole process of dyeing and getting the dye from this fish and the whole process. Thank you so very much for being with us. The entire special Chabura Kol Torah Kula live. Thank you to our tech team led by Rav Levi and Mirovsky. Have a wonderful evening.